Palm Jumeirah's malls rely heavily on sightseeing traffic rather than actual shopping, while high operating costs limit diversity. Finally, older malls like Mercado survive through practicality and loyal local communities, though they risk becoming obsolete if they fail to modernize. Across Dubai, a pattern emerges. Malls are either transforming into entertainment hubs, service centers, or struggling relics of a past consumer era. We are left with a central question. Are these developments building the future, or constructing more beautiful empty spaces? The cranes have stopped moving. That is the first thing you notice if you have ever seen Dubai from the air. That impossible glittering grid of towers stabbing upward from desert sand. That man-made archipelago shaped like a palm tree. Those highways choked with Lamborghinis in the middle of the afternoon. You understood immediately that this was a city that never stopped building. A city that seemed to exist outside the laws of physics, outside the limits of geography, even outside the ordinary logic of economics. Dubai was not just a place. It was a statement. It was a dare issued to the rest of the world. And now the cranes have stopped moving. Right now, luxury apartments in Dubai Marina are sitting empty. Entire floors of the Burj Khalifa's residential units have had their asking prices slashed by numbers that would make a Wall Street analyst flinch. Developers who once sold off-plan units within hours are now offering service charges, free parking, free furniture packages, even cash incentives just to get any buyer to sign. Tourism numbers that were once celebrated with near religious intensity have begun to reverse so sharply that insiders are quietly using a word they avoided for decades: collapse. This is not just a slowdown. Not a correction. Not a temporary dip. This is a full-scale collapse. And to understand how we arrived here, you need to understand that this is not one story. It is three stories colliding at once: a geopolitical story, a real estate story, and a psychological story about what happens when the single most important ingredient in a perception-driven city, confidence, disappears. Let's start with geography. Dubai sits on the southern coast of the Persian Gulf, one of the most strategically critical and volatile waterways on Earth. Roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow choke point where tensions have simmered for years, the world agreed, consciously or not, to treat Dubai as if it existed in a bubble, insulated from the instability around it. That illusion has been broken. Escalation in regional conflict has changed the psychological equation overnight. What was once a distant, theoretical risk has become immediate and visible. And the market's response has been swift and brutal. People leave. To understand the scale, look at the numbers. Dubai was one of the world's biggest post-pandemic success stories, welcoming millions of visitors and seeing record-breaking growth in property prices and investment inflows. On the surface, it looked unstoppable. But beneath those numbers was a fragile foundation, one built on a very specific kind of buyer and a very specific kind of confidence. Many property buyers were not long-term residents. They were global investors, Russians moving capital after sanctions, Iranians seeking financial stability, Europeans chasing tax advantages, and wealthy individuals from emerging markets looking for a safe place to store assets. Dubai wasn't always home. It was a vault. And now, that vault feels exposed. Sanctions, capital restrictions, and rising geopolitical risk have triggered a shift. Investors who once held property as a long-term store of value are now looking to exit. Listings are rising sharply while buyers hesitate. The gap between what sellers want and what buyers will pay is widening fast. This dynamic is familiar. Dubai has seen a crash before, in 2008, when speculation drove prices to unsustainable levels. But that crisis was internal. It could be fixed with restructuring, support, and time. This time is different. This time, the problem is geography. You cannot restructure geography. You cannot rebrand your way out of being located next to a potential conflict zone. And that reality is now influencing every decision, from tourists booking flights to corporations choosing regional headquarters. The aviation sector shows it clearly. Dubai's position as a global transit hub depends on perception, safety, convenience, and desirability. When that perception weakens, the entire model comes under pressure. Passengers have alternatives. Airlines adjust routes. Demand softens. And the effects ripple outward. Hotels, once operating at near capacity, are seeing declines. Corporate events and conferences, one of Dubai's most profitable sectors, are being relocated or cancelled. Businesses are reassessing risk exposure. Because for global companies, the calculation is simple: you do not send employees into uncertainty if you can avoid it. Then there are the residents. Dubai's population is overwhelmingly expatriate, people who came for opportunity, lifestyle, and financial advantages. But unlike cities with deep-rooted populations, Dubai's residents are mobile. They came for the deal. And when the deal changes, they leave. Reports describe families relocating quickly, leases being broken, and shipments moving out to countries like Portugal, the UK, Canada, Australia, and Singapore. Corporate relocations are happening too. Some companies are diversifying away from Dubai, exploring alternatives that offer similar benefits with less perceived risk. Even the crypto and fintech communities, among Dubai's fastest-growing sectors, are shifting. Their mobility makes relocation easy. All of this is happening at a critical moment. Dubai had been trying to transition from a temporary destination to a permanent home. Policies like long-term visas, legal reforms, and lifestyle improvements were designed to attract people to stay, not just visit. And it was working. Until safety entered the equation. Because no matter how attractive the incentives are, they cannot outweigh perceived risk. There is a concept in behavioral economics called the availability heuristic, the tendency to overestimate risks that are vivid and easy to imagine. Once people can picture a place as unsafe, that perception becomes hard to reverse. And Dubai's brand, built on safety, luxury, and stability, now faces that challenge. The government is responding with the tools it knows best. New projects, strong messaging, and visible leadership. Dubai has proven resilient before. It may do so again. But something deeper has shifted. The story people tell themselves about Dubai is changing. And Dubai, more than most cities, has always been built on a story. A story of ambition, possibility, and defying limits. Right now, that story is under pressure. The cranes are still. Hotel lobbies are quieter. Property listings are rising. And decision-makers across the world are watching closely. This is not the end of Dubai. Cities of this scale do not simply disappear. But it may be the end of Dubai as it was once understood, the unstoppable boomtown, the place that seemed immune to gravity. What happens next depends on forces beyond marketing or policy, geopolitics, global confidence, and time. For now, the experiment is under strain. And the cranes are still not moving.